All righty, folks. This is day 4 of our boot camp. We came together. We talked about finding market. We talked about setting up a buy box. Last week, we took our first shot at looking at your Excel spreadsheets, which was awesome. And I thank all of you for being brave enough to share that. What I wanted to do for the next 2 weeks is buy us some time, right? I hope you are still continuing the daily discipline. You are still updating your spreadsheets. You are still growing your network. You're doing all the things that we've talked about. So as I buy time, which means that you're going to still do the work, I'm bringing on 2 amazing guests. For day 4, obviously, we have the one and only and best of the best investor in Central California and perhaps all of California, Mr. Jason Pritchard. Just so you know and whet your appetite for next week, we are going to have Derek, that ADU guy, talking about a growing trend, which I fully support and look forward to taking advantage of. So bringing you 2 rock stars from my personal network that are the type of individuals I like to attract, I like to work with, and frankly, I call friends. So again, if you want to ask questions of Jason Pritchard, I suggest raising your hands now. I will probably open it to Q&A in about 45 minutes because I have 4 topics I want to make sure we hit first. And just so you know, I'm going to give this video out to my channel called Best of ORAT. I announced that on the Daily Financial News. It is a channel with only 100 subscribers and not a lot of watch time. So I'm going to be selfish. I'm going to take this 2 hours of content, put it on that brand new channel, and show people more and more goodness from one rental at a time. So Jason, man, how you doing?
I am doing great, Zuber. Happy Sunday. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for doing this. We just drove to Vegas, so I'm talking to my Vegas home, or Henderson, I guess I should say. I actually want to talk about 4 topics because I think you do so many things, but I think there's 4 topics that I want this group to hear. We'll kind of go in this order, and then we'll open it for Q&A. Number 1 is working with your significant other, right? Jennifer, has been a part of this journey from the very beginning. All right, I'll let you tell the story of how you started, how you went all in, because I think a lot of people would probably see risk in that. Yeah. But again, you communicated, you were on the same page, and you had her full support. There was never a question. So I think that's Absolutely. Important.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, fast forward, you're now living the life together that most people admire, right? Would love to do. Yep. And frankly, it's that journey, frankly, just since we're here, is why you're kicking off the event in Vegas on the 17th and 18th, right? After a little housekeeping, you 2 get up on stage and we just have that conversation. So it's pretty cool. Number 2 is going to be raising private capital. I think there's a lot of folks that see private capital as their way to grow. Like you, I think there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about marketing off market. A lot of people have realized that on market activity or listings is slow. Not a lot of leads there. You have done this for quite a while, so we'll talk about that. And then finally, we'll riff on when to scale, right? I think there's a lot of folks that just kind of the Grant Cardone mentality of just bigger, 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 bigger.
Yeah.
But it's not always the right answer for everyone. So those are the 4 topics. You want to have any opening comments before we get in?
No, first off, guys, I just want to say thanks for joining. I know there's lots of things that you could be doing on your Sunday morning, so we really appreciate you guys coming on. My intent and my goal is just to try to transfer as much value as I can to you guys. Real estate has absolutely changed the trajectory of my life. I don't think any of the things that I'm doing are proprietary. All the tools and the resources that I use every single day, I'm going to make available to all of you guys on the call absolutely for free. So I'm an open book. There are no secrets. There's no secret sauce. There's no magic button. Just ask me whatever you want, and I'm happy to do my best to answer any of those questions. So looking forward to it. Thank you, guys.
So let's go back. Let's remind folks what you were doing, what year it was when you had this this desire to leave corporate America, right? Yeah. You were climbing the ladders. You were making 6 figures. You were very good at it, but you had enough. So tell us about that. Tell us what year. Tell us about those first conversations with Jen.
Absolutely. So my background, guys, was I worked in sales and sales management for a couple companies over the course of 15 years. So I went very traditional route growing up. I grew up in a family where education was very much emphasized in my household. So I was taught to go to school, get a job, work really hard. And, you know, when you're 60, 70 years old, you can retire and live out your golden years. And that was the plan and the path that I was on. I got my start working for a technology retailer, and I was doing all outside sales. And I did that for a long time. And I really thought that I was just going to climb that corporate ladder and become some type of, you know, maybe mid-level executive, make 200-300 grand a year, and, you know, have a nice house, a nice car. And, you know, that was going to be my life. And I found myself in a space in my early 30s where I was very, very unhappy. And I was projecting a lot of that unhappiness into my marriage. I was projecting that unhappiness into my relationship with my kids. And I had to look internally and realize that I was just unhappy with myself. And I was unhappy with myself because I knew that I was put on this earth to do more than what I was doing at that time. I hated being stuck in a cubicle. I hated not having any time freedom. I hated being, you know, at the mercy of, you know, basically the company that I worked for. And I had always been intrigued by the idea of real estate. I had always, like, I had read Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was young, like 19, 20 years old. I had always had those moments during that 15-year career that I had. I'm assuming a lot of you guys were like this too, where I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And I would go down the rabbit hole of reading books, or now it's going on Bigger Pockets and listening to podcasts or watching Zuber and doing these things. And I ended up just talking myself out of it. I think, you know, I was complacent. I had friends and family that, you know, I don't want to say they weren't supportive, but you know, you always kind of convince yourself that now is not the right time. There'll be a better time. I'm going to wait for the market to get better. I'm going to wait for something, insert whatever reason, to happen. Right. And I just played that game for 15 years. And I was 33, and my wife, Jen, and I sat down, and I just said, hey, if I don't do something right now, it feels like I'm never going to do it. And I wasn't in a bad spot with my job or anything. And I just said, listen, why don't we just give this a shot? And worst case scenario, I could always go back and, you know, go back to my old job and work again if this doesn't work out. And we sat down, and that was a big thing. And you and I talk about it a lot, over the power and the importance of having a clarity of vision with your spouse, and then putting a plan together. And that's what we did. We put a plan together that gave me a year to try to make something happen. And it was at a point where Jen had recently graduated. She had gotten a job as a high school counselor, so her income jumped a little bit. So we were able to kind of balance things out. And that was it. We burned the boats in 2014, and I have not looked back since. And since then, we've flipped close to 400 houses. I own a rental portfolio of just over 100 units, mainly single family, small multifamily, small apartments in Central California. And you know, it's been a wild ride and a wild journey the last 10 years. It's been pretty cool.
And I just want to go back to that. So from that first conversation, you come together, you're probably in the house, or maybe you're at dinner when this starts, and she probably senses you're frustrated, right? You're not happy, to use your words.
Yeah.
And how do you basically, you're saying, I got to do something now, or it's just not, it's never going to work, and I'm not going to be happy. And like you said, it's impacting it's impacting your wife, your relationship, your health, all of these other things. And then Jen, because, you know, I obviously know Jennifer really well, and she basically says, my words, not yours. I got you. Let's get a plan. So from that conversation to creating the plan, because you know, you're very much out there, and I think Jen wants to see it kind of a flow chart. Like, how long
Yeah.
was that conversation?
Honestly, it wasn't, thinking back to then. I mean, we didn't put together like some crazy, you know, thing on paper, like this huge roadmap, right? The big thing for us was financially, how are we going to pay the bills? That
Right.
was the big conversation for us, because I was the breadwinner at that point. My job, I was doing very well. I was making well over 6 figures. We were 2 incomes, but, you know, she had just gotten her job as a counselor, so she was going to see a pay increase. But, you know, back then we were not very fiscally responsible, frankly, right? Like we were spending the money as fast as we were making it. And we had, you know, all the things that you have when you're married and you have 2 kids. We had a mortgage, we had credit card debt, we had 2 car payments. You know, our savings was not anything to like be happy about. Maybe a couple $1,000 in the savings account, maybe. You know, I was putting money in a 401k, but I wasn't actively concerned about money in versus money out. So the first step that we had to take, because I'm the kind of person that I operate better under pressure. And so for me, operating without the safety net of having the job, I think is what was required for me in order to make it happen. That's not necessarily the right option for everybody, but I'm self-aware enough to know that looking back, had I been trying to work and do the real estate thing, it was so difficult at the beginning. It would have been too easy for me to just kind of throw in the towel and just be like, you know what, this isn't really for me. This is for guys like Zuber. This is for guys like other people. It's just not really, in the cards for me. Right. So we had to make a plan on how the mortgage was going to get paid, how all our bills were going to get paid, and how we were going to be able to put a little bit of money together. So we had to get very serious about budgeting. And we had to get very serious about understanding how much money was coming in and how much money was coming out every month. And we had to reduce the amount of money that was going out and maximize the money that was coming in. So that was step number one for us, is because I think when you're operating from a place of stress and scarcity when it comes to finances, and you don't know how you're going to pay your mortgage, and you don't know how, you're going to put food on your table, it puts you in a position when you're looking at real estate opportunities where you act from a place of desperation, and you never want to be doing that. You have to close. You don't want to be in a spot when you're talking to sellers or writing up offers where you have to close deals, because you can always make the math work however you want it to work. You can always fudge the numbers a little bit and push a square peg into a round hole if you want to. It's very easy to fudge the numbers in this business. And so I think you need to take care of that. If you're going to go this route, I think you need to have a good sense and have a plan there. I didn't know anything about real estate, frankly, guys. Like, literally, I didn't know the first thing. And there was not in 2014, YouTube and social media the way that it is now. So the information was not as accessible as it is. So, I was 100% self-taught. I had to figure it out on my own. But the plan initially, Zuber, was just getting on the same page financially. So, we had, a roof over our head still, and we didn't totally, go bankrupt or something like that. So yeah, that was what my biggest concern was back then.
But I mean, you have to be able to set it. You have to be comfortable. She has to be comfortable.
Yep.
Right. Basically you allocated a year, right? Okay, Jason, I'm going to give you a year. So now let's fast forward. You're into this. I don't know. I think I've heard the story a couple of times, 6, 7 months. You're spending time. You're not yet seeing the fruits of your labor. I think she comes along at some point, kicks you in the ass. Let's talk about that.
It was. And I think what I see with a lot of newer investors is that they underestimate how much work you have to put in where you're not going to see a result immediately. And so the struggle for me, and I think the struggle for a lot of people, is we're used to trading our time for money. So when we do a task, every 2 weeks or every 30 days, we get, some type of financial reward after that. Right. And in real estate, it is not like that. And we are in a business where the income earning potential is so high, but at the beginning, you only get paid when you can produce an outcome and a result. And that's usually finding a property, closing a deal, whatever your goal is in your real estate business, right? And it takes a little while to understand how to produce that result. And for me, I was working every day. It wasn't like I was just kind of, half-assing it, guys. Like, I was literally getting up every single day. A lot of my time at the beginning was spent self-educating because I needed to understand, just how to put a deal together. So the first few months of me burning the boats was me just kind of learning the business and then slowly taking steps to try to find deals. And yeah, like you said, Zuber, I mean, we were probably even longer than 6 or 7 months into it. It felt like we were like 9, 10 months into it. So that 12-month, like that year-long period that she gave me, that leash that she gave me, was running really, really short. And I remember we had a conversation in our bedroom, and we were just up there, and I can tell that she was not very happy. And, we were just kind of stressed out, and money was running low. I was dipping into my 401k and pulling money out of that just so we could kind of pay the bills. Cause that's basically the position that we're in. And she said to me, listen, this is not working. I don't care if you have to go get a job at Walmart or Starbucks. If you can't make something happen soon, you're going to have to find another way to make some money. And so for me, that was a very difficult conversation as a man to hear, especially coming from my wife. And so for me, it wasn't all, I mean, she did a great job of pouring into me and supporting me. And she also knew when like you said, I needed a kick in the butt sometimes to get motivated. So if you're the person in your marriage, right, that was like me, your job is to produce the outcome as fast as possible, because nothing will make your partner more confident and comfortable in your vision than proof of concept. So if you can get to proof of concept faster, it will be easier for your spouse to buy in, right? So that was my goal is like, let me just try to get a deal as fast as possible. And, you know, that conversation was honestly all I needed. After that, I told you this story. I think we had 3 houses in contract within like 45 days. And within that first 12 months, we had, it ended up with like 4 deals, I think, like that in our first 12 months, but it all came at the end. So if you looked at my progress on a graph, it really is truly that hockey stick, right? It was flat, 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 nothing, nothing, nothing. And it doesn't mean that I wasn't working. I was working my ass off for those 10 months. I was working really, really hard, but the result didn't come until the very end. And that's very, very common in this business. And most people just stop before they see that spike at the end. And I always say, if you don't stop, the outcome will come eventually. The doing this business inherently is relatively simple. It's not easy, but it's very simple. And
Agreed.
if you just stick with it, you will eventually get the outcome you want. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah. So one more question on relationships. And again, at the event in Vegas, you're going to be there. Jen will be there so they can hear right from her. How often do you guys talk about money or finances now, maybe versus a couple of years ago? Is it the same? Is it just part of
More
what you
now,
two do?
definitely more now. I mean, Jen, we've been very, very blessed, and I'm grateful. Jen was able to retire fully from education last year. So, she's going to be 42 in a couple of weeks. So, for me, that was a very big moment for me because so much of what I was doing was trying to unlock freedom for myself and for her and for our family. So for her to be able to walk away from that job, it was cool. Now she works with me full time. She helps manage all our rentals. And to answer your question, we talk about finances all the time. Now, talking about our specific finances, no more than once a month do we go where we don't review. We budget everything monthly, like in our personal life, right? Business wise, we have weekly discussions. So I have a weekly meeting with our accounting team where we look at where we're at with all of our projects, where we're at with our P&L as far as our company is concerned. But in our personal life, we don't go more than a month. And we have, some simple tools and systems that we use to track where our net worth is at, how much we have in saving. I mean, all the different things that we talk about that we need to measure. And I think just like anything else, if you're not discussing it and it's not a topic that's front of mind, then it's never going to be important to you guys. And so you have to, the reason why we struggled so much early on before we ever got into real estate is we never really talked about money. Because anytime that the topic of finances came up, frankly, it turned into an argument. And it was very difficult.
Yes.
And we'd fight about it because I had bad spending habits. I thought she had bad spending habits. You know what I mean? And it just wasn't, was not conducive to a positive conversation. So first things first, we had to fix our financial habits and get that personal financial house in order. Then I needed to work really hard to make more money. Then I got good at investing money, right? And now we're in a much better space. And it took 10 years to get there, but that 10 years is going to go by whether you do something about it or not, guys. So you might as well at least put some effort into doing something like this.
Exactly. Yeah. I think there's so much wisdom in all of that. 10 years, I have this, 3-step process to get wealthy. And the last one is it takes 10 years. If you do all the right stuff and, time will get you there. So it's pretty awesome to see. So let's switch gears to raising private money.
Okay.
I think that's something that a lot of people think is the magic unlock. I think there's a lot of people, frankly, positioning it or selling the sizzle without the meat. I've seen what you do. I do basically the same exact things. There is a way to raise private money. So when you think about doing it the right way, what are the anchors for you?
So for me, raising private money, there's a couple key things that need to happen in order to be able to raise private money at a high level. And the first thing, in my opinion, that needs to happen is that there needs to be a mindset shift within you before you even go attempt to raise money from anybody. And it's a subtle thing, but it's very, very important. So for me, you have to go into any discussion that you have with a private lender with this attitude and this intent. Okay. You're not asking anybody for money. You're providing an investment opportunity. And those are two very different things. Okay. And I know it sounds whatever, but trust me, guys, like when you're going in to a meeting with a lender and you're coming from a place of, hey, I have this great investment opportunity. I can pay you 10% on it. It's secured against a piece of property that I have in a first position deed of trust. I'm going to pay you monthly interest every single month. And because my business model is based off buying great deals, you're never going to be over leveraged on the property. Frankly, if I don't perform, or God forbid something happens to me and I get struck by lightning or I die in a car accident, you would probably do better financially because my deals have so much meat on the bone, right? And if for some reason this is not an opportunity that works for you and this particular deal that I send you doesn't work, I need to know right away because I need to send it to every other lender that I have. That is providing an investment opportunity. If you go in with the energy of, please, can I have $300,000 because I, blah, 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 like that, you're just projecting a different level of communication. And so I think you have to start there. Number two, okay, you have to be prepared. So you have that shift, then you have to be prepared going in. Okay. So preparedness when you're going to raise private money looks like a couple different things to me. Number one, I think you should spend the time and the energy and maybe a little bit of money if you need to hire somebody to do this, to put together what I call a credibility packet. Okay. And that credibility packet is a simple document. It's 8 to 10 pages. I will make this accessible to all of you guys and you can rip off and duplicate mine exactly if you want it. Okay. And it says a little bit about you, a little bit of a background and a history and your backstory, what your goals are and what you're currently doing in real estate. It should show an example of either a current deal or a prior deal that you've done broken down pretty thoroughly, right? And so on my credibility packet, because our main model is fix and flip. We take the money from the products or the projects that we fix and flip and we buy rental properties. But initially, step one is creating income from the fix and flip. So I have a very detailed breakdown of prior deals that we've done. Okay, so it shows, here's an example of a deal. Here's what we paid for it. Here's our rehab budget. Here's how fast it took us to turn it around. Here is the return that my lender made on that particular deal. Then we have a schedule of real estate owned. So here's all the projects that we've done, right? Then we've got some before and afters just to give them, the cool stuff that everybody likes to see. Here's what it looked like when we bought it. Here's what we look like when we're done with it. And at the very bare minimum, guys, that's going to give you some confidence, right? Honestly, I don't hardly ever use that anymore because I don't really need to do it. But at the beginning, being able to walk in with something tangible that shows, here's a little bit about me, my track record and what I've done, is going to make you feel good. Now, if you don't have a track record, that is okay. What I would do is, just like Zuber talks about all the time, is doing the work and penciling deals and making offers. Take a deal that you've done and that you've analyzed, right? Even if you haven't got it in contract, and use that as the example in there and just say, here's the type of project that I'm going to be doing. So if you're new, it's even more important to have this, frankly, because you want to go in there with something tangible and something that's confident. Okay. And then the third thing is realizing the lender is betting on you, not on the project. Okay. So you have to focus on building a relationship with that lender. The project or the property is just acting as collateral. That's it. Now the deal and the numbers have to make sense, and you need to do your due diligence and be responsible to your lender and make sure you're not putting them into a bad deal. But if you need to know that the lender is bet you're the horse in the race that they're betting on, and you have to focus on that relationship first. It's all relationship based, right? So don't focus as much on, the property and the project and the numbers and that type of stuff. It should be more on making a connection and building rapport with that person, right? And that's another thing I think that I made a mistake at the beginning. It was all the deal, and I want to spend all the time talking about the deal. And I didn't really connect with the lenders at first. And the more that I focused on building rapport, establishing trust, getting them to know, like, and trust me, just like you do with sellers when you're putting off-market deals together, the better results that you're going to get when it comes from lending. And I have literally everything that you guys need. The credibility packet. Everybody gets caught up like on the tools, right? And the tools are the easy part. So I will give you guys my credibility packet. I have a example of a deed of trust. The deed of trust is the document that acts as security for the property, right? So that's the form that collateralizes their money and basically secures it against the project that you're doing. I'll give you a editable deed of trust. I'll give you an editable promissory note, the note that we use in our business every single day. That's basically the contract that you're signing. So it spells out how much money you're borrowing, the interest rate, the term of the loan, late, all of that stuff, right? So I'll give you guys all of that for free. So then that way there's no excuse on, oh, I don't know about this or that, right? We'll clear all of that off of the runway for you. So you guys can just focus on, honestly, those three things: the mindset shift that has to happen first, getting prepared, and then focus on the relationships. And the last thing is you got to ask, guys. You have raising money is the same thing as closing deals. If you're not asking for it, it's never going to happen. Okay. And so if you're not talking to people, and we can talk about how I talk to people and how I leverage it, I can go down a rabbit hole with raising money, because this is a topic that I enjoy talking about. So you have to ask. I mean, those are the four things. If you're not talking to people about your business and making people aware of what you're doing, you're not gonna do a good job raising money.
So let's talk about how people can get all this wonderful stuff. I'm guessing you want me to send them to your website so they can reach out to you. Is that what we should do?
Yeah, the easiest thing to do, guys, anybody on this call, if you just go to jasonpritchard.com.
I brought up the website, I think.
Perfect. Yep. Thank you. And I think
down
at the bottom, Zuber, if you scroll down,
yep,
there should be a way to contact my team. Just all the way down at the bottom, there's a form right there.
There it is.
So if you guys just go down to the bottom, you put your name, your email address, just drop a little line in there that says, hey, we're on Zuber's Bootcamp this Sunday, and I'd like to get the core documents that you guys use, and I'll give you guys all the private lending documents, so the credibility packet, all those things that we just talked about, along with everything else that we use in our business day to day. I know we're going to talk about off-market deals and all that stuff. So our deal analyzer, our contracts, assignments, agreements, the scripts that we use, everything, we'll give it all to you guys for free. So just drop a thing there, and then my team will see it on Monday, and then we'll start getting those docs emailed out to you guys.
Oh, Jason, that's huge. Thank you for that. So I want to go back to one of the comments you made earlier, because I think a lot of people look at your credibility package and go, of course he can do that. He's done these things.
Yep.
This is why last week we went through all of your spreadsheets, right? Day 3, most of you had a spreadsheet that we all looked at individually. I want to be clear. That's, think about this. It's 60 days from now. Your spreadsheet is 173 listings. That is doing the work. You'll be able to take that spreadsheet, sort it by best to worst deal, sort it by whatever, highest, lowest yield, whatever you want. Being able to articulate confidently what a deal is in your market and showing them, not just talking, but showing them, this is my buy box. I do this every day. Here are the net new listings. Here's what's selling. Here's what's not selling. You have no idea how valuable that activity and exercise is. And it should be a point of pride, because most people don't do the work. They just don't. It is so easy to stand out these days. And that activity from last week, and we'll look at it again in a couple of weeks together. It's the thing, Jason, I think, for the beginners.
It is. There is a cost of admission to finding success in this business. There's a price that you have to pay. And the price that you have to pay is the work that Zuber is talking about. You have to get in the trenches. You have to do the kind of the boring and the monotonous stuff.
Repetitive. And yep.
It's repetitive, guys. And you will be better if the first seller that you talk to, you're going to be nervous and you're going to be scared and you're probably going to fumble that opportunity, and it is what it is. But when you talk to that 1,000th seller, you're going to be much better and you're going to sound way more confident. And most people just give up because they're not good at it at the beginning, guys. And you're not good at anything when you started and you're brand new. So you have to release that expectation that things are just going to happen perfectly and things are just going to work like magic. It takes some work, and you have to be willing to pay that cost of admission. And so I agree with Zuber 100%.
Yeah. And again, I really think, Jason has his credibility package, which is outstanding. And again, I can't believe he's giving it to you for free, but he is. I've raised private money 2 different ways. Millions of dollars both times. So back in 2006-ish, 7, I was actually writing on BiggerPockets as one of their blog writers, but I also had this website called wealthbuildingpro.com. I don't think it exists anymore. But all I did was I wrote the story. Here's a house I bought that was a dump. It needed these kinds of things. And, I think I ended up writing 7 or 8 kind of stories, because that's what we did. We didn't have, or at least I didn't know how to use video back then. And just the activity of doing the work my buddies, my friends and families, helped me raise millions of dollars. And then obviously when I retire at 2018, this YouTube channel kicks off and we start flipping, slumlord properties to pride of ownership rentals. And I wrote about it in the book, and millions of dollars at my disposal. And again, I was doing 6%, 20. It's just, you have to tell people what you're doing. And if you just show them and you're consistent, I have never asked for money. People reach out to me and say, hey, if you got another one, I'm here. And folks, it's just showing people what you're doing. It's not fancy. It's not hard. It's not sexy, but it works. It works. So find your way. Right, Jason?
I will tell you guys this thing right here is the most powerful tool in your toolbox right now, because I want you to think about this. Like, we spend lots of time, lots of money putting events on and doing these things to get people to come out, right? We did an event in Fresno about a month ago or so, right? And we had 250 people show up, and we had to spend $2,000 for the venue and all the things and all this stuff to garner the attention of 200 people for an hour. Okay. I can post something on my Instagram story and I get 2,000 people a day that watch it for free every single day. And Zuber is 100% right. I do a very good job. Zuber does a very good job of this too, of just authentically sharing my journey. And that's all that I'm doing. My intent is just to share what's going on. And my focus with the stuff that I do on social is to speak to Jason when he started. I can remember what it was like to be in your guys' shoes. I can remember what it was like very early on, all the self-doubt and the worry and the fear that I was dealing with and the knowledge gap that I had to bridge, right? So for me, my journey on social media is just documenting what I'm doing every single day, right? And the biggest mistake that I made, the biggest mistake when it came to social media was that I was too scared to post anything at the beginning, and I didn't post the come up, the start. I didn't post the first couple years. And it was just so like, I didn't post anything on any social media platform until I had flipped like 50 houses. And I remember, it's funny, I was looking at this because I have it saved on one of my highlights on my Instagram. The very first story that I posted, I was walking my 25th rental. Think about that, guys. Like, I had done so much before that. And people will engage and your audience will follow along with you. And all you have to do is provide value to them. And then you can casually throw out like, hey, here's an opportunity. I'm walking this project right now. I do this all the time. We're walking this property right now, right? Here's the plan, right? We're going to buy it for X. We're going to put Y into it. We think it's going to sell for Z when it's done. If you or anybody that you know is interested in funding one of these opportunities, send me a DM. I have raised probably $30 million, guys, through a combination of social media and like in-person networking events and taking relationships online, offline, nurturing them and really, building them like that. And this is 100% free. And most of you guys are hesitant to do this because you're worried about what other people think about what you're going to post. And that's what's stopping you guys. Like you're the fear of like judgment and doubt and all those things from other people. And if you can overcome that, this tool right here is the thing that will help you raise more money than anything else.
Couldn't agree more. Folks, remember, you're going to get the opportunity to ask questions of Jason. I think there are 2 hands up. We will get to those in a bit, but we're going to do 2 more topics just to whet your appetite. Number 3 is going to be off market. That is something that you have been doing for quite a while. I will say that other than one deal bought on auction.com, I bought everything on the MLS for 15 or 16 years. So this is your sweet spot. Talk about the journey. Talk about how, all of that.
Yeah, so off market is my specialty, guys. I'm almost the exact opposite of you. I think, Zuber, I have bought one property that was listed on MLS, and it's because I had a relationship with the agent and he wanted to double end it, and he knew that I bought Fixer Upper, so he just called me. And everything else has all been direct to seller. So here's my opinion, okay, guys? Whenever we can buy a property where it's us and the seller communicating directly, my opinion is you will always be able to get a better deal. Anytime somebody else is inserted between us and the seller, that can be a broker, an agent, another investor, whatever, friend, family member that's referring it to you, that price typically goes up because all those people need to get paid. And so for me, One of the things that was my competitive advantage at the beginning when I first got in is, like I said, I spent 15 years in sales and sales management. So I understood what it was when I understood what marketing was. I understood how important it was when a lead came into our system to talk to them immediately. I knew the value of building trust and rapport. I had very strong interpersonal communication skills. So once I understood how to speak the language of real estate, and once I understood, like, okay, here's how you actually do a deal, like all of my old instincts kicked in and it was very easy for me to go. So off market very much is it's very much a sales job, guys. And I can't be any clearer about that. You have to understand what that is. We're spending a lot of time and money and energy bringing leads into our system, right? I think of it as a sales funnel, right? Leads come into the top. Our funnel is designed to qualify those leads and get the best ones kind of through the funnel as we go down, right? And then we talk to those sellers, we analyze those deals, we go on appointments, we make offers, and we go from there. So I know we're going to get into this, but like I think step number one is we need to understand when we're doing off market, okay? Step number one is that we need to understand first the profile of the sellers that we're speaking to, okay? So 90% of people that sell a piece of property are going to hire an agent or broker. They're going to stick it on MLS. And their main goal typically is to try to sell that property for maximum value. They want to get as much money as they can from the sale of the property. And when we're doing off-market opportunities, guys, we're not talking to those 90% of people, okay? We're talking to that 5 to 10%, okay? And the 5 to 10% of people that typically sell their properties off-market, money is usually not priority number one, right? It's a priority, but it's not the most important thing. There's usually some other problem that is going on that needs to be solved, right? And if you can get good at solving that problem, then you can get a deal together that usually makes sense. And so here are the circumstances that I see over and over and over and over and over again when we're talking to sellers and going on appointments, okay? We are dealing with sellers that are inheriting unwanted property. So that's usually people going through the probate process. We're dealing with landlords that are having problematic tenants. So people that are going through the eviction process. We're dealing with landlords that own a lot of property that are getting older. Their properties are maybe, have some deferred maintenance and they're getting ready to downsize. We're dealing with properties with physical distress. So that's usually, code enforcement, and I'll tell you how we get all these lists, but there's properties, you see them boarded up, you see those properties that have physical signs of distress, or there's some type of financial distress. They're behind on their mortgage, they're behind on their taxes, something like that, right? And whether you guys realize this or not, all of that information is just floating around on the internet. Some of it is easier to get than others. There's some websites like Property Radar is the website. That's one of my go-to websites for list building and collecting data for motivated sellers. You can go on Property Radar right now, and within 5 minutes, you can pull a list of every house in your neighborhood that's getting ready to go to auction within the next 90 days, right? And those sellers are going to be motivated because if they don't come up with a solution to pay off whatever they owe their mortgage company, they're going to lose their house, right? You can pull a property, you can pull all kinds of lists from Radar, right? And so step one is understanding the profile of those sellers. Step number two is learning how to market to and engage them. You have to start getting good at getting in front of those sellers. And just like everything else, the more opportunities that you can get in front of them, then it's just running numbers on the deal, making an offer, and like Zuber says, doing the work. So I have to understand that first. We're not targeting the MLS buyers when we're going off market. We're targeting the people that have these problems. And then our job is to get good at getting in front of them and then learning how to solve the issues that they're having.
So one of the things I'll do for the group is Property Radar has been on my channel a bunch. They actually gave a code that you can get a discount for a couple of months. So I'll put that in the notes somewhere of this video. But the other thing I want people to hear about off market is it is a sales funnel. I don't think a lot of people kind of understand that. So if we talk about a sales funnel just in the big steps, is the top of the funnel obviously is the widest. Your job is to throw as many leads. And for you, that is postcards, networking, right? Talk about all the things that you're doing today and maybe where you started, because I'm going to guess it was very different.
Yeah, we'll finish with somewhere between 70 to 75 deals this calendar year, guys. Okay. About 50% of those deals come from our direct to seller marketing. So our direct to seller marketing right now looks like direct mail, right? So we send out about 25,000 pieces of mail every single month. Okay.
Say that again. How many a month?
25,000. So we,
And
our
and what does
list
that cost roughly?
costs about $25,000 because we're paying about $1 per mail piece right now. Okay.
There you
So
go.
just on direct mail, we spend about 25 grand a month. So 25,000 a month on direct mail. I have a dedicated team of cold callers that work for me. So the mail, again, going back to step number one, understanding the profile of the seller, then we go get that data and we put it into a list that we can mail, right? We already have the list that we're mailing. Doesn't cost that much more money to hire a couple of people, virtual assistants, and have them call all of those sellers too, right? Because some people are going to go to their mailbox and, you know, open the mailbox and call in. Other people, you can just pick up the phone and call them, right? And then we do paid marketing to get sellers to come to us. So pay-per-click, pay-per-lead, SEO. We drive traffic to our website that way, right? So that really is what comprises our direct-to-seller deals. So 50% of the deals we do this year are going to come from our marketing. The other 50% are going to come from networking, right? So going back to what I was talking about social media, branding, we do social very well. I also do the old school organic face-to-face networking very well, right? I take at least one meeting in person per week with a high-level producer. Now, if you're brand new, you may not be able to get a high-performing investor or agent to go. So you need to take a meeting with somebody else, a new agent, a new investor. You need to be out talking to people, guys. Like, you need to be putting the word out of what you're doing, right? And eventually, the network deals are things that you plant the seeds now, and the fruit, the harvest doesn't happen for later on down the road, right? Direct to seller can pop off a deal much quicker, but it takes more money to do that, right? Networking is stuff where you have to plant those seeds, you have to water them, you have to, it's really like, I equate it to farming, guys. It's something, you don't plant a seed today, wake up tomorrow and see if it's grown, right? You're gonna have to let that breathe a little bit. But the network deals typically tend to be the best deals because they're not as competitive. You know, it's not like, you know, sometimes we go to appointments with sellers that respond to direct mail and they've got mail from 20 other people there, right? And they've got appointments with 5 other people. So, you know, it's a little bit more of a competitive situation. The relationship-based deals are the deals that come from my network. Those are the ones that typically tend to do best. And that takes time, you know, making the relationships with agents and brokers and investors out here to the point where they trust you enough to send you opportunities takes some time and it takes a little bit of work. But you know, those are usually the best ones.
Yeah. Again, folks, what we're doing in this boot camp, and if you follow one rental at a time, is, you know, I scream buy box, right? You need to tell everybody what your buy box is. You're not looking for a deal. You have a set of criteria or an asset that you're looking to buy. Tell everybody, right? Jason does great off market. I bought on the MLS. That's that's predominantly what I've done. I couldn't get a deal on the MLS in 2020 and 2021. We still did 7. That's because of my network, and everybody knew I would buy, and I had my criteria. And if I said yes, I'd close. And it's just, again, just like we talked about earlier, having the spreadsheet be your proof of doing the work. Tell everyone what your buy box is. It is that simple, because what you want that person to hear is, if they find something, and you'll be shocked at how many times you'll hear something like, oh, I think so-and-so might be looking to sell, or so-and-so owns one of those. I'll call them for you. It's amazing. Don't be shy. This is not, you know, secret agent stuff. Everybody should know what you're buying.
No, that's it. You have to put the word out there, guys. You have to ask for the things that you want, and eventually you'll get the outcome that you're looking for. I'm going to, as part of the documents that we'll send you, the core docs that we use, there's going to be a 10-page step-by-step guide on how to get started in real estate investing the way that we do it, right? So as far as the off-market stuff, right? And on there, it's very, very detailed and in-depth, and it shows, like, here's exactly all the lists that we pull. Here's, you know, where you get the lists. Here, it just literally takes you through step by, so you have the whole blueprint. And I mean, it's literally the blueprint that my team and I follow every single day. So don't overcomplicate things. Don't make it harder than it is. You know, it does take some work and some energy at the beginning invested into this. Anything that's worthwhile does. But don't overcomplicate it. It's simpler than I think what a lot of people think when you're starting out.
The last thing I want to say about off-market opportunities and why you are the best of the best and others kind of burn out is, just like sales, it's a consistency. You can't do it 1 month, take 3 months off, and start again. It's a consistency.
here's the analogy or the metaphor that I love to use, and you and I have talked about this before, guys. Lead generation. Everything starts with generating leads. So if you go back to that funnel, right? The funnel does not work unless leads are coming into the top. And generating leads are not like turning a faucet on and then they just pour out. It does not work like that. Okay. Generating leads is like cranking water from a well that you have to crank by hand. Okay. And so you have to pump that well by hand, and everything that you're doing is below the surface. So all the work is happening below the surface. Okay. And here's the mistake that I see people doing all the time. They'll come off of a call like this, or they'll go to some event or whatever, and they'll be really highly motivated, right? And they want to just dive all into off-market stuff, and they start spending a bunch of time and money and all these things, and they go at a pace that is not sustainable, both financially and from like a time commitment thing, right? And so they go and they just start cranking feverishly, right? And they don't know if the water's like 500 feet from the surface or 5 feet from the surface, right? But here's what I will tell you will always work, okay? If you just stick with that and you just do it and you do not give up and you go at a pace that's consistent and predictable and you just keep going, whether that water is right there or it takes a little bit, it's going to come out. But the problem that I see a lot of people doing is they go and they start just going at this pace that they can't sustain, and then they stop and then they go to another well and they start something else. So they start direct mail and they do direct mail for a couple months and they throw $3,000 or $4,000 on it, and it's not working. They're not closing any deals. So then they start cold calling and then they go build a website. And what happens, guys, is you're really starting over every single time, because every time you stop, that well water goes all the way down to the bottom, right? And then you go to a new one and you do the same thing. And you just have to pick something. With off market, pick one thing at the beginning, right? So if it's going to be mail, then start with mail. If you're going to do cold calling, then do cold calling. If it's going to be relationship building, then just go all in on building related, but pick one thing and stick with it until it produces the outcome that you want. Then you do a deal, and then money comes in and you carve off 20 or 30% of the money that you make from that deal. And then you can invest into another marketing channel, right? So think about it as fishing lines in the water. You have to get one pole in the water working before you start trying to fish with 3 or 4 poles at the same time, guys. It doesn't work like that. Okay. So just do one thing, stay with it consistently. If you guys have questions about doing off markets, that's like what I specialize in. So I'm happy to answer any questions. If you guys look at that guide or whatever after the fact, just send me a DM or a message or an email or something, and I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah. And don't forget, you can raise your hand and ask him here directly. We're going to be getting to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, we'll get to that. The last thing I want to do is talk about your evolution with off market. You talked about fishing poles, fishing lines. What was your first? Where are you at now? Kind of walk us through how you did that. What was your fishing lines like?
So for me at the beginning, mail was a staple, and I think direct mail works very well. And our direct mail works in any market, guys. And I spend lots of time and lots of money, frankly, like investing into masterminds and different things to be around other high performing people all over the country that do the same thing that I'm doing. Everybody does the same thing, guys. Literally everybody. There's not some secret thing that is going on. We just do it, and we do it consistently. So for me, it was mail. So one of the best ways, honestly, in my opinion, if you're new and you don't got a ton of money to spend, okay, one of the best things to do is to do something called driving for dollars. So pick your core neighborhood, okay, or your core market where you're investing, and spend a few days a week. This is going to take, probably 3 or 4 hours, but I would have the goal, okay, of adding 50 properties per week to my driving for dollars list, right? And so here's what we're doing when we're going around. We pick our neighborhood, right? We get in our car. I like to have Property Radar up on my phone, okay? And I have the app on my phone. I'm driving through a neighborhood, and you see these houses all the time, whether you guys realize it or not. The boarded up ones are easy, but the other ones, like where there's a tarp over the roof, or there's abandoned vehicles, like in the driveway, there's cobwebs growing all over the tires. You can tell it hasn't moved. There's long grass. There's trash piling up inside and outside in the backyard. Those types of things are the indicators of the distressed properties that we buy all the time, okay? If you can start putting together a list of 50 a week, okay? Typically for direct mail, you have to have a minimum of 200 properties. So in a month, you'll get to 200, okay? Now you can send your first little batch of direct mail. And those driving for dollars properties, what's so good about them is that they typically do not show up on all these other big lists like that people like me are pulling. They're kind of these ones that just fly under the radar. And it's a great way for you to get out in the field, to be looking at properties, to start collecting that information and spend $200 on your first month and then go out. And then month number 2, you're going to spend $400. And then so you're going to have a little bit, and the goal should be within, I'd say 4 to 6 months to try to get an opportunity from that. So you're going to have a little bit of investment from a financial standpoint to do it. But now you're going to send a piece of direct mail out. You're going to start getting calls, and then you're going to get the reps talking to sellers on the phone. And that's when that sales process kicks in. You're going to have to get great at qualifying those leads. And typically for us, when we're talking to sellers, there's 4 things that we want to know. We want to know a little bit about the condition. Talk to us about the property. How much work does it need? Is there a tenant in there? Is there not a tenant in there? Is it beat up? Like, what's going on, right? So 4 pillars of a motivated or a qualified lead or condition. 2 is motivation. And this is the most important one. What's going on? Why do they want to sell? When Zillow says their house is worth 300, guys, and they're open to accepting an offer for 150, something is going on. Okay. There's something happening that is causing that to happen. Okay. So you need to get great at uncovering the underlying motivation, right? And that's something that a lot of people skip. They want to make it about the deal and the money. And when you can get great at understanding what problem you need to solve, that's when you'll do your very best deals. Number 3 is price. So if we can understand what their price expectation is, and number 4 is time frame. If we can figure out those 4 things when we're talking to sellers, that's a qualified lead in my business. Then we take it, we run it through our deal analyzer, and then we call that seller back and we say, hey, based on everything that you told us, based on what we're seeing in the market, based on the work that the house needs, this is probably where our offer is going to be. Would that be something that you would entertain? And if the answer is yes, we immediately go to an appointment with the seller and we take a contract with us and we put that property in contract. It's literally that simple, guys. It's a 4-step process for us, right? And it's just that over and over and over and over again. So if you're starting direct to seller, best thing from a cost-effective standpoint, I think, is driving for dollars, then sending a small batch of mail and then starting from there.
So let's kind of close out with, what are all the tools you're using today? Obviously, you're spending $25K a month on postcards. What are all the Property Radar? You've hit that.
Property Radar is a staple. I think if you're not, I mean, we're licensed, so we have MLS access and all the counties and stuff that we invest in. But if you're not, Property Radar is just as good. It's a really, really robust and powerful tool, not just for pulling lists, but it allows you to run comps. So if you don't know how to run numbers on properties, that's what we use in areas where we don't have MLS access. Property Radar is our go-to for running comps. It gives you all the seller's information. So it gives you their contact number. If their phone number is available, it gives you their phone number so you can pick up and call and text them. It gives you things like their loan balance, right? So you understand how much equity in the property, because when you're doing off market, equity is a very big component, right? All the key information that you need. Yellow Letter HQ is the name of the mail house that we use. So if you guys want to use direct mail, Yellow Letter HQ, and I'll give you guys a ninja tip here. Give me
a ninja tip. I like ninja tips.
So this is the mail piece that we're currently using we've used every mail piece that's known to man. We've used postcards, we've used handwritten letters, we've used professional letters, we've used letters with pictures of me and Jen on them. I mean, literally everything, guys. And so for us, this mail piece right now is the one that gets the most bang for your buck. I kind of ripped it up a little bit, but when the whole idea with direct mail, guys, is to get them to pick up the phone and call you. So the mail piece is designed to get them intrigued enough to pick up the phone and find out what's going on, right? So a lot of people at the beginning will default to postcards because postcards are inherently a little bit cheaper, right? Because the postage form is cheaper. They're cheaper to produce, right? They're about half the cost of this piece right here. This piece cost us $1. And this is a check. I ripped it up when I opened it up. But when you open it up, guys, they get a check here at the bottom. And this check basically takes the Zestimate and it automatically puts 70% of what the Zestimate is, right? And our call rate, direct mail, your response rate with direct mail, industry standards, 1%. Meaning if you send out 1,000 pieces of mail, 10 people are going to call you, okay? And of those 10 people, 7 or 8 of them are going to be like, take me off your list, okay? And then there's going to be one person that's curious. And then maybe if you're lucky, one person that's actually motivated to sell, right? So the whole idea with this piece, okay, is we want more people to call in. So our response rate went from 1% to 3%. It tripled, guys,
Nice.
right? So we had 3. So if you're going to send small batches, right, of 200, and the response rates, that means 2 people on average are going to call you. So spend a little bit more money and have this check go out, because now you'll get 6, 7, 8 people calling you. And that's what you want. You want more reps, right? And it's just, they open it up. It looks like a check. When they unfold it, it's got a little letter that says, hey, my name's Jason. I'm looking to buy a property at 123 Main Street. We pulled public records and you look like your owner. Here is a check at the bottom that you can take as a no obligation, no strings attached cash offer on your property. If you're interested in knowing more, then reach out to us and call us, right? And we get people that call us that think that this is like an actual check. I mean, it's crazy. Like, my team has to explain to them that it's like, hey, this is just a ballpark offer, right? We need to find out more about your property. But I would want, if it were me and I was doing this, I would drive for dollars. I get 50 properties a week, and then I would mail that check piece. And we use Yellow Letter HQ for that check.
Yeah. To be clear, it's not a live check. It's not a live
It is not
check.
a check. No, it's a pre-printed marketing piece that appears to be a check, right? But again, the idea is to get them excited and intrigued to call you. That's it. That's what you want. You want people calling you.
Yeah. I mean, most people never see a check for $172,000. They open there like, oh my God, what is this guy doing? So yeah, it makes total sense. You went from 1 to 3. So, okay. Property Radar, Yellow Letter HQ.
Or cold calling. If you guys cold calling, my background in sales, all we did was cold calling. So for me, I'm very good at cold calling. I have no problem jumping on the phone. We were like making thousands of phone calls before, back in the day, before this was like a sexy thing in real estate. So for me, we use a system called Call Tools for cold calling, because I like cold calling because it's very cost effective and it's a very efficient way to talk to a lot of sellers, right? So mail, right, is inherently, mail is an example of a marketing channel that generates inbound leads, okay? Inbound meaning the seller is reaching out to us and calling us. Inbound leads inherently are going to be warmer, higher quality, because at the very bare minimum, minus the people that are taking me off your list, the very bare minimum, they're curious. And on the other end of the spectrum, they're ready to sell right now, right? Or somewhere in between. So those leads are typically going to be warmer when you're doing inbound marketing, but it's more expensive, right? So it always costs more to generate a warmer lead, right? Cold calling is very, very cost effective, meaning you can get a system like Call Tools. We can take that big list that we pull from Property Radar. We can get the phone numbers. I can upload it into Call Tools, and Call Tools is an auto dialing service. So you can dial 10 numbers at a time. So you literally, my team, they just put a headset on, we upload our list, and they're just going. On average, my team makes 2,500 dials per day per person, okay? And we've got 4 people calling all day. So we're making 10,000. Think about that, guys. We're making 10,000 dials a day. And Call Tools is the system that allows us to not have to manually dialing is not very efficient at all. And so Call Tools is what we use for that. If you're very, very low on funds and you want to start direct to seller marketing, I recommend cold calling, because with mail, you have to commit for a minimum of 6 months. So if you're going to go down the road of doing direct mail, guys, just know that you're in it for 6 months. Don't be that person that jumps from one well to another well, right? So if you're going to make that commitment, make sure you have the money to invest for a 6-month runway minimum. And ideally 9 to 12 months is a lot better, but you have to do it for a minimum of 6. So if you're going to spend $500 a month on mail, make sure you have, whatever that math is, $3,000 set aside to be able to do mail for 6 months, right? Calling, it costs a couple $100 because that's what the dialer costs, and that's it. So you can be a little bit more cost effective. And I really like cold calling, because you're going to get, your skin is going to become very thick very quickly, guys. And you're going to learn like what it is to talk to sellers. And think about this, okay? You're essentially telemarketing, guys, when you're cold calling for real estate. If you can build the skill of calling somebody on the phone that's a stranger, okay, and their guard is, nobody is happy when a telemarketer calls them, right? So if you can get good at disarming that person, getting them to like and trust you enough so those walls come down a little bit, right? They can give you what's going on about the property, why they're motivated to sell, the price and the time frame. Guys, that skill that you develop will be so valuable in the future when you can learn how to do that. So I don't be afraid to jump on the phone and call people, guys, especially with off-market stuff. That's it's almost like we talked about the price of admission. You have to pay that cost to get in, because it's the rite of passage that you have to get good at talking to people. And then eventually you get out in front of people and those skills will transfer to that when you're going on appointments.
Very, very cool. Again, folks, remember you can raise your hands if you want to ask Jason a question. We got one final topic, Jason, and that's kind of when to scale, right? When do you invest a little bit more? When do you kind of pause or maybe pull back? Talk about those decisions.
Yeah, I was a one-man army for a lot of years, guys. I mean, really for the first 4 years, it was just me. And I mean, I wasn't doing an insignificant amount of work. I mean, we were probably flipping at that point 30 properties a year. We had maybe a dozen rental properties that I was self-managing, and I was literally wearing every single hat in the business. And so I was sending out the mail. I was fielding the calls. I was going on appointments. I was closing deals. I was raising money. I was hiring contractors. I was negotiating bids. I was project managing. I was filling all of our vacant units with tenants, right? And I think for me, you can be a one-person show for a while. It just depends on what your goals are. I got to a space where the first hire that I needed was basically like an administrative assistant. I needed somebody to help just take some of the busy work off my plate, right? Turning utilities on at a property, paying bills, paying the contractors, right? Helping me with like preliminary bookkeeping, helping me just kind of get organized and keep everything in order, right? So I think your first hire should be somebody to help with that type of stuff. I made the decision initially to hire somebody in person, but I have hired a lot of virtual team members. We have 6 virtual team members that work for us full time, all based out of the Philippines. And I think if you are on a budget and you want to, if you're on a budget specifically, a virtual team member is a great addition to help, because anything that can be done from a phone or a computer, a VA can do for you. And that virtual team member, honestly, that you pay $4 to $6 an hour for that type of job is going to be better, frankly, than somebody that you pay $20 an hour that's stateside that works for you in person. Because that $20 an hour person, I cycled through 4 of those people. They usually have about a 9 to 12 month like runway with you before they either want to move up in your company, in your organization, or they find something else to do. So I would hire that person first, and then go from there. And then I was a 3-person show, Zuber, for another couple years after that. I mean, we have 11 people that work for me now, but we got a lot going on, guys. So we have a full-time project manager. We've got all of our rentals we manage in-house. So we have a full-time team member that helps Jen manage all of those things. I've got 4 people on my acquisitions team, 5 people on my acquisitions team. I've got a head of acquisitions, head of operations now, and then I've got, some administrative and executive assistants that are virtual that help. And so, I think the scaling thing, a couple things that you guys need to think about. You should be hiring the skills that you're not good at. That's what you should be looking for. So for me, I was really good in sales and acquisitions, and that's a big driver for your business at the beginning, finding the deals, sourcing them, closing them, right? So for me, I wanted to delegate everything else, because all the other stuff that I was forcing myself to do that I frankly did not like doing, and or I sucked at doing them, like, sitting down and managing our books, and sitting down and uploading receipts into Google Drive, and all these different things that you should never really be spending your time doing. Once you reach a certain point, supplement the skill sets in the areas that you're not good. That should be the first hires that you guys make, right? And then once you start becoming good, then I hired out acquisitions, because now I needed to free myself out of the business so I could spend more time growing the business versus being involved in it in a day-to-day thing. So look to hire out the stuff that you're not good at first. That would be my suggestion.
But don't be in a rush.
Don't be in a rush. No, you don't. I mean, you can go. I mean, it all depends on your goals and what you want to do. You know what I mean? You have to have clarity on that first. And if, like I said, I mean, we had 75 rentals and we're flipping 50 houses, and there was 3 of us. You know what I mean? And we always ran a pretty lean operation. And so, it depends on what your goals are and what exactly you want to accomplish.
Very, very cool. Well, Jason, we're going to go to you for the first question real quick, but I want to go through the chat real quick. Catherine, this video will be uploaded to Teachable probably by noon. in the course, so everyone can go see it. For the folks that didn't make it, it will be there for you. Maybe 1 o'clock because it's a pretty massive file, but it will be there. Senya has a question for you, Jason. Is there a specific deal analyzer you would recommend? And dude, I got to say yours, but I'm just being selfish.
Yeah, I mean, if you put your information into the info, like the message box at the bottom of the website, we'll send you our deal analyzer. So our deal analyzer is, it's designed to be simple because we don't want to overcomplicate it, but it's also pretty powerful. So with us, when we're analyzing deals, Senya, we start from the end and then we back everything else out from there. So we start first by comping the property out to determine what we think the house is worth if it were completely fixed up. My model is fixing and flipping. That's the majority of what we do. So the 70, 75 deals that we're going to do, probably this year, 75, 80% of them we're going to take down. We're going to remodel them and resell them. That's like what our business model is. So the deal analyzer that I have is going to be based off of that. So just keep that in mind. We start with the ARV, what's the house worth? And then the analyzer backs all the other costs out. So it backs out the commissions and closing costs that you pay when you sell it. It backs out the closing costs that you pay when you buy the house. It backs out your interest to your private money lender, your property taxes, your insurance, all the holding costs associated with doing a deal. It backs out our rehab costs and it will help you calculate your rehab costs. And then it also comes up with your profit margin. So we start at the top with what the house is worth. We subtract everything. And then at the bottom, we call it our MAO calculator. It's our max allowable offer calculator, right? At the bottom, you get your max offer. So ideally, our number, if everything lines up, our offer should never be higher than what that max is. So when we go back to the seller, we typically start at a price range that's just under that max offer. So it gives us some room to come up. And literally that is what we use every single day. The first step is a lead comes in, we qualify them, and then it immediately goes to one of my team members and they run it through that max allowable offer. And then they share that with my acquisitions team and they use that to go make the offer for the sellers. So you'll get that calculator.
Very, very cool. Well, Jason I think your hand was up first, young man. Go ahead and ask your question.
Thanks, Uber. Thank you, Jason, as well, for giving the knowledge. It's very helpful today.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, for sure. Let me see. I have a couple of questions. Maybe I'll start with the first one. So, like, going a little into the earlier parts of your journey, were you only looking in Central California? Did you ever look into other areas? What was that process like for you?
That's a great question. At the beginning, it was only my backyard because I had such a knowledge gap that I needed to bridge with just kind of understanding real estate that I felt like, hey, if I was looking in markets that I was unfamiliar with, it would have just created too much confusion for me. So I initially started in my backyard. I liked the idea of being able to drive by the property, look and feel the property. They were neighborhoods that I were familiar with, streets that I were familiar with. So for me, I started there. Eventually, after let's call it 3 or 4 years, I did end up buying some properties in the Midwest that I still own today. I have 5 units in Cleveland and a property in Indiana. But the bulk of what I own as far as like buy and hold is all in Fresno and the surrounding counties. But it's basically Fresno County is where we own the bulk of our stuff. So I'm a believer of start in your backyard. I think that there's always deals in your backyard. I'm not saying that that's definitely not a one size fits all answer, but that's what worked for me.
I think there's kind of offer a caveat to that. So again, you know my story, Jason, right? I tried to invest in my backyard, Silicon Valley, Mountain View, Palo Alto, Cupertino. It's just ungodly expensive, no cash flow. But I will tell you, it was easier for me to learn the skill that I could then repeat in Fresno, right? You know this. I didn't spend a night in Fresno for 20 years, right? I drove in, drove out, and built a decent portfolio. I could tell you that I would have never learned Fresno if I didn't start in my backyard, right? I had to learn the skill, what worked, what didn't, the conversations, the network. That allowed me to, go to a brand new market. I didn't know anybody. And I couldn't imagine, like for you, starting in Indiana, just pick one of the states. I couldn't imagine trying to do that in the beginning.
It would have been very difficult for me because I was still trying to there's a huge knowledge gap that you need to bridge at the beginning, guys. And so adding more complexity on top of that, is probably going to make things harder on you than they need to be. So I'm always like, what's the path of least resistance? What did we talk about at the beginning? How do we get to proof of concept as fast as we possibly can? The more complex the path is to that proof of concept, the longer it's probably going to take, right? So we need to do things to kind of shorten that gap, right? So try to get to that first deal as fast as you can, because that will give you such a confidence and a momentum boost. And then you ride that wave into other things, either your very next deal or the next one, or then if you want to start venturing out into another market, so much easier to do that if you can get deal number one under your belt faster.
Yeah. Jason, your hand is down. Was that your only question, or do you have a couple more? It sounded like.
Yeah, I had a couple more. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so you also mentioned your wife. She helps out in managing the rentals. I was curious if she was ever involved in deal finding.
Jennifer is not a deal finder, and so that's going back to the knowing like what you're good at and what you're not good at. Jennifer, it's funny because like Jennifer sits next to me, so this is our home office, right? And we work from home, and so Jennifer sits next to me, and she's always hearing me because we do everything via Zoom. My team is virtual, right? So we do all of our trainings via Zoom. On Wednesdays, I have a sales meeting with my team, and the back half of that sales meeting is me calling on all the hot leads. So if we have leads that are like, we call it like 5-yard line and in, right? They just need to get pushed across the end zone. I just have them create a list of our CRM of all of those leads. And I call them during that meeting just to keep myself sharp and also as a training exercise. And Jennifer listens to them and she's like, I could never do anything like that. She likes talking to people, but it's scary, guys. Like inherently, I understand it. Like picking up the phone and calling people, and you're going to get your teeth kicked in by some of these sellers, and it's tough, and you have to build thick skin. And going back to my competitive advantage, I was already so like seasoned, like I was such a seasoned sales professional when I came into this business that getting told no on the phone was nothing to me. I was like, one no is closer to a yes. So I just have like, if it takes 100 no's, I'm just like, all right, what's next? You know what I mean? Like, let's get on the phone and talk to the next person. I just didn't hesitate when it came to that. And Jennifer, her deal finding is like, she likes to find addresses. So she'll drive around and she'll add a house to the driving for dollars list or this. Yeah. She's like, hey, call this person, or, hey, you know what I mean? And so that's the extent of the deal finding, but her skill set, this is what we've learned, that Jennifer is great from, kind of an operational, a detail oriented, all the like the little monotonous work that I freaking hate. Like she loves doing that stuff. So she's really good at that. And so we have a great, we make a great business partners, because what I'm really good at is making money. And what Jennifer is really good at is making sure we keep as much of that money as possible. So she's always looking through the lens of like, why are we paying this much for this? And why is this? And why did this contractor get paid this much when the last job, it was all the stuff where I'm like, whatever, I don't care. She's really good at that. So I think if you and your spouse are going to work together as partners, get a good solid understanding of what you're good at and what that person is good at. Right. And then figure out where that synergy is and that overlap. And that's where I think, we've done well at. So I would suggest starting there, doing an inventory of your skills, and then just focus on what you're good at first.
Yeah. Jason, one question for you. It's actually in one of the comments. I think when you do the cold calling, you actually record those, right? So your team can go back and listen to them. Yeah.
So Salbil, if you want, I will send a link to, we do 2 script training sessions per week. That we do 4 trainings on my team every single week. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do script training, and I will send a link. I'll include this for everybody so you guys can have it. You guys can see we just house it in a Google Drive. So it's going to be a Google Drive folder. You'll click on the folder, and then you'll see all the recordings for everything. And you'll see exactly how we do 2 trainings a week. So in our business, we have a lead qualification or a lead intake call, and then we have an acquisitions call. The lead intake call is the very first call that we have with the seller, right? So when we were talking about those 4 pillars of motivation, we drill and role play how to properly qualify that seller. The other call is like our acquisitions call, which is a higher level call, right? We're recapping the information they gave us on call number 1. We're uncovering motivation, and then we're presenting a price, which is very difficult for a lot of people to do, because that's, where, you have to qualify that seller to make sure your price expectation is within a certain range. So for us and our business, going back to that max allowable offer, we will not go on an appointment if the seller's price expectation is $50,000 or more than what our max offer is, right? So when we call on that acquisitions call, okay, we're going to go on appointment if our max offer is 50,000 or less than their price expectation all day long, because we feel like we can close that gap when we get out there. When we're there at the property and we're looking at the holes in the roof and we're looking at, you know, all the work that needs to get done, we can close that gap. But yeah, I'll happy to share that with you, and you can watch exactly how we role play all those things, and then you'll get the scripts as well, so you guys can use those scripts too.
I think people will be everybody wants to kind of see that role playing. So you're actually going to do real calls. So folks, again, Jason over delivering like he always does. Jason, do you have another question?
Yeah,
Jason?
one more, and then I'll pass them. All right. So given like the interest rates in the market now, right? Like, you know, a lot of things are changing from what it was 6 months ago, 12 months ago. How does that change your approach to whether it's finding deals, making deals, financing, or what's changed?
It's a good question. It's a good question. And I'm not going to sit here and act like, you know, it doesn't impact my ability to acquire rental properties. And so, you know, I was lucky, fortunate, whatever, smart enough, whatever you want to characterize it, to start buying in like 2016. We bought our first rental in 2016. Within 3 years, we had accumulated 50 doors. And then now we have just over 100. And so it was easier. I've bought everything using the BRRRR model. So if you guys are familiar or not familiar with the BRRRR method, it's buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. Okay. And for me, the BRRRR model has worked great because going back to our core business, which is finding off-market properties, we create and control deal flow. And the person, in my opinion, that controls deal flow is the one that has all the leverage in this business, because as those leads are coming in our funnel and then they come onto our assembly line, I can cherry pick the very best deals to keep for myself. So the deals that are in the neighborhoods that I want, that we're getting the best possible price on, that, you know, we like for different reasons, those are the ones that we set aside and keep. Everything else we monetize by flipping it or wholesaling it or doing whatever to bring chunks of money in and then buy those properties. Now, BRRRR does not work as well when interest rates got an 8 in front of them. It just doesn't. And so, you know, it is what it is, guys. I mean, you know, like you have to, like, that's why I believe finding deals off market should be one of the tools in your tool belt, because it allows you to just buy better. You can buy deeper, and the deeper that you can buy, right, it allows you to do two things. One, you can front load all the repairs on the property, right? Because if I'm buying at 40 or 50 cents on the dollar, I have margin in that deal to do the roof, to do the AC, to rewire the house, to redo the kitchen, the bathrooms, all the plumbing and all that stuff. So in you know, a perfect world, it doesn't always happen like this, but you're not going to have like the rinky-dink maintenance requests. You're not going to have those big ticket capital expenditures that wipe out your cash flow for 2 years, like a roof or an AC, right? So that's one benefit of buying off market, right? Is you can front load all the repairs and like tenant proof the house is what I call it. Number two, you can come in and your basis into the property should be 65 or 70% of what the house is worth, right? So you can bring that loan amount down, right? If I can buy for 40 cents on the dollar, I can invest and I can be all in for 60 cents on the dollar, right? I can then go pull out a loan for not 75 or 80%, but I can pull it out at 60% of what I'm into the property for. So then my loan balance is less, and I have, even with a higher interest rate, an opportunity to make cash flow. And that's why buying deals at a discount, I think, is a very important thing, because it offsets the high interest rates. But It's been hard this year, dude. And I have been less focused on buying rentals because we've got a bunch of rentals already. So we don't, it's not as much of a priority. And we're in a season of our business where we're just stacking as much cash as we can. So all those 70, 75 deals that we're going to do this year, we're fixing and flipping them, wholesaling them, or wholesaling. We've probably held maybe 3 or 4 deals this year, and that's it. And so everything else, we're just stockpiling money right now. And so I know rentals are huge. They're the foundation of everything that we've done. but don't force it right now, guys. I can't, especially if you're new, if you force something that is not a good deal, all it takes is one bad thing to happen and you're off the rails very quickly, guys. One tenant that stops paying, one roof that goes out and you got to stroke a check for 15 grand. I mean, there's all these different things that people frankly do not talk about when they're like on social media talking about all the cool things that they're doing with real estate. A lot of people are not as open and honest about like all the bad stuff that can happen. And there's lots of painful things that can happen in this business. And if you don't, especially at the beginning, if your first few rental properties are not structured the right way, all it takes is one bad thing for, that whole house of cards to come down. So you got to be careful.
Totally agree. Totally agree. All right, we're going to move to Senya. Senya's hands up. There she is.
Hi. So Jason, first of all, thank you so much for sharing the wealth of knowledge.
You're welcome.
Definitely very helpful. So I have a question on raising private capital, right?
Okay.
So you mentioned that credibility packet, right? So how many properties would you say would make would suffice for credibility packet for you to be taken seriously?
Here's the thing. Okay. I had a pretty good track record. Before I ever built that credibility packet, I probably had flipped maybe 20 houses. So I had an actual track record to go off of. Don't let that stop you for making the credibility packet, Senya. This is the mistake that I see a lot of people make. They want to have the track record before they build this thing out. And you don't need to have that. I am of the opinion, okay, that it's totally fine and acceptable for you to build a credibility packet out now if you've never done a deal. And the deals that you're putting in the credibility packet, what you're referencing in there should be the type of project that you are looking to raise money for, okay? And the credibility packet is designed to give you confidence when you're talking to somebody. So I don't think now don't go into that conversation and lie about what you've done. Now, obviously, right? You need to be very open and honest about the type of stuff that you're done. So if you're new, then explain it. And if you're new, then you may not get the terms that Zuber and I get on our loans, right? You may have to give up a bigger piece of the pie and you have to be okay with that, right? So lenders are going to know and understand that, okay, Senya's new. It's a little bit more of a higher risk profile than maybe lending money to somebody like me that's got a big track record. So you may have to give up some equity in the deal. You may have to, like with me, when I raise money, I'm able to raise all the money I need to buy and fix the house and all of that stuff. You may have to, only borrow half the money that you need so they don't feel as much exposure. But don't feel, Senya, like you have to have done 10 deals before you can put a credibility packet. Then now, do it now. And you'll see it when you look at mine, right? There's a section where it's very detailed and broken down the deal. That should just be the screenshot of the deals that like Zuber has you guys doing. Like, here's an example of what my buy box is. Here's exactly the profile of the type of property that I'm looking. And that should be what's in there. And then you need to be able to talk intelligently about it when you're meeting with that lender.
I just want to hit that one more time. The answer is 0. If you are doing the work that we talk about 20 minutes a day, you have your tracking spreadsheet, you should be able to very clearly articulate why this property, this one of the 173 that you've looked at, is the best deal. You have no idea how little work most people do. If you say that you've been looking at your buy box for 87 days in a row, and here are the 173 properties that have hit the market, and this is the best deal, and this is why it's the best deal, and yada, 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 that's what a credibility packet is. Don't diminish the value of doing the work. It is the thing, right? The 20 results that Jason had, that's after he did the work. Yeah. So yeah, the answer is 0. You don't need, but you've got to do the work. There's no cutting the line. Don't be desperate, all of those things. But yeah, I just wanted to chime in. Did you have a second question, Senya? Okay.
So first of all, thank you, Jason and Mike. That's really helpful. I have another question. So, for instance, if you do identify a property, that specific property that you're interested in, but it's abandoned, how would you find who to contact?
Very good question. So that's where Property Radar is a huge resource, right? So let's go back to the exercise that I was talking about before where we're driving for dollars. I'm in my car, driving around. I see a house that's boarded up. Those are great properties. We love to buy vacant, boarded up properties all the time because those properties are usually no longer assets. They've become big liabilities to those sellers, right? Because nobody's living there. Even if it's free and clear, they have maintenance, they have property insurance, they have property taxes, they have all these things that are
Code
coming
enforcement.
in, right?
Yep.
And they are a magnet for transients and homeless people and squatters and people to break in. The neighbors are pissed off. The neighbors are calling code enforcement on them. Those sellers are a lot of times they're motivated to sell. Okay. So how we find them is if I'm driving, I see that house, I type it right into Property Radar, and literally you click on the address and all the owner's information pops up. I mean, it's that simple, right? So their name, their mailing address, their phone number a lot of time is there, and that's all that we need to reach out and call them. So I would just say pick up the phone and call. You can also add them to a mailing list, and then you can start mailing them like we were talking about earlier. That's the best way to find the owners, right? And then just reach out to them directly. And that's why like the scripting and all those things are important because you need what do you say when you call? You know what I'm saying? Like that's where most people get hung up. It's like, I found this property, then I found the sellers. And what do I do next? And the next thing is you pick up the phone and you say, hey, I'm calling for, hey, Michael Zuber. Hey, I was driving through the neighborhood here. I was looking to buy another investment property and I saw your house on 123 Main Street and it looked like it was boarded up. I know that this call is completely out of the blue, but I wanted to see if you'd ever thought about selling that place. And the answer is either going to be yes, I'm interested, no, I'm not interested, or maybe. And your job is to take them through that process, right? So it's like, if the answer is yes, well, great. Like I said, my wife, Jen, and I are looking to add something to our rental portfolio. I love that house over there on Main Street. Tell me a little bit more about what's going on with that place. I drove by the other day. I saw it was vacant. How long has it been vacant? Why was it boarded up? You know, I ask them questions. How much work does it need, right? How come you haven't fixed the house yet? How long has it just been sitting there? Have you just, you know, like all of those things to kind of get that conversation going, right? And then again, watch some of the role plays that we do so you can see the flow and the structure of what that conversation looks and feels like. Then you don't start picking up the phone and calling sellers when you have 10 out of 10 like communication skills, right? If I'm a 10 out of 10 on my ability to convert opportunities over the phone and you guys are 0 or 1, you're going to jump in the deep end at 1, guys, because you don't get great at talking to sellers by practicing and role playing. You get great at talking to sellers by picking up the phone and talking to them. And guess what? At the beginning, you're probably not going to be very good at it. So you have to be okay with that. And you just have to understand that, again, talking about paying the price of admission when you do these things, that's the cost of entry, right? Is just putting yourself out there and being okay fumbling on the first few calls or the first 100 calls or however many calls it takes for you to get comfortable doing it. But that's it. Just Radar is such a powerful tool. I've had it since the beginning and I can't recommend it highly enough. I love Property Radar.
Sydney, you got one more question?
A follow-up question. So first of all, thank you for providing clarity on this. Follow-up question. So would it be safe to assume that every abandoned property, or at least most of them, would turn up on that Property Radar tool?
Yeah, because Property Radar just pulls from tax records. That's all that it is. So all that you're doing is, if there's an address, Property Radar will have the address in the database because that address is on the tax roll and Property Radar pulls from the tax assessor's office. So that all of this stuff is public information. It's not like a secret thing. So like everything, right? Like any property that you own, the owner's information is a matter of public record, right? When they bought the house in California is a matter of public record. What they paid for the house is a matter of public record. If there's a mortgage on the house, guys, that's a matter of public record. You can see what that mortgage, the estimated mortgage balance is. You can see when they pulled that mortgage. You can see if they're behind on their mortgage. All of those things are floating around on the internet, believe it or not. And Property Radar has all of that information on there. And so I have never like put an address into Property Radar and not have it come up. So I've never seen that happen. Now the owner's information, like ideal situation is it's a mom and pop kind of landlord, right? It's owned personally. Their personal name is on there. It may be owned in a trust. It may be owned in an LLC. Like all my companies are owned in a trust. And then there's a LLC that owns it. So when you pull up one of my rentals, it's going to show the name of the company. It's not going to show my name, right? So there's a little bit more work that's involved in tracking down that person, but that information is there for you to grab too. So typically if it's owned in an LLC, we don't cold call them, we just mail them. Because it's a little bit more time intensive to have to track every LLC owner down. So if it's owned in a corporation, we just put them on our mailing list and we just do direct mail. But if it's a personal owner, like a personal name, then we find their number and then my team calls them.
Very, very cool. All right, Van Reeth, what you got, man?
Hey, thanks for having this meeting, Jason. And
Yeah,
I have
you're welcome.
I have a few questions. I'm not sure if we want to get through all of them, but
Well, let's do 3. So, and then
okay.
we'll come back if we can.
Okay. So going back to relationships, so I am a person that kind of takes more risk than my wife, and so her personality is about like security. And so I guess that's the hard part, is like I know that it's hard to kind of get in this journey and then make mistakes. And so that's how's can you kind of describe like how you've kind of overcome the kind of personality differences between you and your wife, and also kind of the baggage that you've had with
way. Yep. Here's the easiest way to overcome that, is to get to proof of concept as fast. Nothing will get your wife on board with your journey faster than closing a deal. And like, I remember the first deal that we closed, I think we made like $55,000 from the flip. And I had never in my life had any, I mean, I had never had $10,000, I think, saved up prior to that. So for us to get a deposit into our bank with $55,000, that was like the, oh shit moment. Like I was like, okay, this works. This really works. And now we can go. So your job is to make that outcome happen as fast as humanly possible. Because if you can make that happen, there's nothing like a result. Most people need to see the result first, right? And you're operating from a place of faith. That's how I was. You're operating from 100% faith in your ability to do something, right? So for us, if you're a visionary like me, right, and you have that entrepreneurial spirit and your spouse is a little bit more conservative and like less risk averse, right? The other things that you need to talk about are how you guys are like even measuring risk right now. Because frankly, for me, like doing the same thing that we were doing and just putting all my eggs in my company's basket, that's way riskier for me than it is to go bet on ourselves and try to carve out like our own piece of financial security and freedom, right? And that's what real estate investing was for me, was just not having to rely on something else. And so I think you have to have a very clear talk and discussion about what your vision for the future is and why this is important. And then you should have some type of plan. Like you should have something like this is how long I think it's going to take. Here are all the things that I think it's going to do. Now, are we going to have to invest some time and energy and money? Yes, we're going to have to do that. But if you can come with a roadmap and say, I would like to invest $1,000 a month in the tools and the systems and the marketing that I need, and I'm either going to create a side hustle and I'm going to go drive Ubers or whatever I need to do to generate that $1,000. So then that way your wife doesn't feel like you're just cannibalizing like your income that's coming in, or figure out how to find $1,000 in your budget and cut that out. That's probably the easier thing to do, right? So just download your bank statements, find $1,000 on all the eating out and the entertainment and the things that you probably need to stop doing anyways right now, at least at the beginning, and go to her with that plan. And I think if you can be very clear on paper and say, here's exactly what we're going to do, here's exactly how much money I think it's going to take, here's how much time it's going to take, and get her on board with there. And she may still not be on board, dude. You know what I mean? And that's the reality of the situation. You can have the whole plan together, and that doesn't mean that she needs to see your vision. So that also means, going back to what I said at first, get a deal done as fast as possible. Because if you can get that deal done, there's nothing like that type of proof of concept that will get them on board, man. But besides getting a deal done, come up with a plan, share that plan, and talk, and realize that like her vision may not be your vision right now, and that's okay. You know what I mean? It takes time, dude. It takes a lot of time sometimes to get them on board. Like Jennifer was always supportive of me, but there were some things where it's like, I don't know if we should do this, Jason. Like, I don't know. And it took a little bit of time. It took me going out and producing that result, and her and I communicating throughout that process to get to where we want to go. So just be patient and and talk and communicate with them.
Yeah, the other thing I would highlight for folks, and this is why you're doing the 90-day, look at your buy box every day, build the spreadsheet. It's going to be 173 rows or whatever it's going to be. Show them your progress. I've helped many folks who are different risk profiles or experiences, and you'd be amazed after 60 days or 75 days of just showing consistent effort and tracking and showing what you've learned. It's surprisingly helpful. So I would suggest that as well. All right. What's number 2?
So currently I don't have any properties, and it's like I've come to this this boot camp to kind of have focus. And so I know that once we get out of this, then like I think like there's going to be times when I'll have like shiny object syndrome. Like how do you keep focus on the things you're doing, and like when do you start pivoting to
you need to create an accountability group. Here's the hack to fix this problem. Okay. You need to identify other people that are in your market that are wired the same way that you are, that have the same goals, that have the same vision, that are driven to do the same things. And you need to create an accountability group. And that accountability group needs to be here's how networking works the best. Okay. You have people in your network like Zuber or me or whoever that have done all the things that you want to do and are 5 or 10 years down the road from you. So that way you have a big vision of here's what I can accomplish in 10 years. Okay. Then you need to have people that are going to be part of your accountability group. These people are right at your same level, or maybe 1 or 2 or 3 years max ahead of you, right? Because those people can relate very much to the problems and the issues and the things that you're dealing with right now. Okay. And those people, you need to be meeting with them on a regular, consistent basis. Those are the people that you should be having lunch or coffee with on a weekly basis. Like one of the biggest, most impactful things for me when I was first starting is we had a very small mastermind group, and there was like 6 or 7 guys in it at the beginning. Okay. And I'm in Fresno. So half the guys were from Fresno. Half the guys were from a town called Visalia that was an hour away. On Friday mornings at 6 o'clock, there's the city in between Fresno and Visalia called Kingsburg. And I would get up at 4:30 in the morning. I would get dressed and I would drive over there so I could meet these guys at 6 o'clock. And that was a group of relationships that changed my life, guys, because we weren't like doing formal, like presenting on deals and stuff like that, but we were just there talking and sharing and collaborating. And it's going to be very easy to be motivated and pumped up coming off of this call. I get charged up for you guys just talking to you guys about this stuff. But talk to me 2 weeks from now, dude. When your wife is pissed off at you, your kids do something stupid at school, or your boss gets mad or something, all of the motivation is going to go away. Right. So you have to create checks and balances. And that accountability group is so important because you can go, and if you can create a reoccurring time when you guys meet either over Zoom or in person is better if you can make that happen. But if it's virtual, then do Zoom, and come with some type of intentional things and say, at the meeting this week, I want to accomplish X, Y, and Z. And when I come back, I want you guys to hold me accountable for doing X, Y, and Z. Right. And if you keep showing up to those meetings, not doing the things that you say that you're going to do, everybody's going to look at you, Van Reeth, and be like, well, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, and you're either going to raise your level, right? Or you're going to stop showing up to those things, dude. You know what I'm saying? And so I think here is what I've learned. We will break a promise to ourselves much faster than we'll break a promise to somebody else. And it's very sad, but that's the reality of the situation. We make all these commitments to ourselves and we have all these big goals and all these things that we do, but we will break a commitment to ourselves like this. But if we make a promise to somebody else, right, it's much more likely that you're going to keep that promise. So if you can do that, that will help you kind of get through this initial starting off process. That's not, I mean, again, it's simple, but it's not easy. I'm not going to sit here and act like it's easy, but if you can find those solid people and get around them, I think that will be a big help.
Okay. Very cool. One more, Van Reeth.
And I think the kind of went over the other stuff that I had questions about, but I guess one other thing is like, in terms of like accountability, like the mentorship part of it, how do you find one that it's like, I guess like not, how do you find a mentor that it's actually beneficial to you and that person, and have outside of the accountability groups, just so that you kind of either get feedback on the strategy you're doing or the approach, or kind of making sure that you're not making dumb mistakes and not going down the real estate journey and just stopping. Yeah.
Couple ways that you can do it. What market are you in?
I live in Long Beach, California. So
Are you going to invest in Long Beach, or are you going to invest somewhere else?
I'm not sure yet. That's to be determined. I'm just doing the
here's step number one, okay, to find people to network with, both accountability groups and mentors. Okay, go on meetup.com. Okay, right after this, type in real estate investing in the search bar. Okay, and then go 50 miles out or 100 miles out or however far you're willing to travel. Okay, I'd sign up for every single free meetup group in your area, and I'd go to every single one of those meetings. Okay, and when you go there, you need to go there with the intent of making genuine, authentic connections. Don't just go there and sit in the back and listen to the speaker and then leave as soon as everything's going. The point of those types of events is not, you're always going to get something from whoever's speaking or whatever, 1 or 2 nuggets, but the value is in the relationships that you build, right? So you need to go there. And you need to put yourself out there, dude, and you need to be okay with it, right? With the smaller groups, the way we have a very large group in Central California now, so we don't have time to go and let everybody introduce themselves anymore. But when we were first starting, there's 20, 30, 50 people, and I would make a point of making everybody stand up, everybody introduce themselves, tell them what they're doing in the business now, and what's one thing that you need from the group, okay? And so you need to, hopefully the people that organize the events do something like that. And you need to have some type of elevator pitch when you get up and say, hey, my name's Van Reeth. I'm brand new to the business, but my goal this year is to buy 3 properties or whatever your goal is, right? And here's the thing that I need. I'm looking for somebody that knows this area, that could potentially be a mentor to me, but more importantly, I just want to add value to them. So whatever that looks and feels like for you, if you need help doing this or that or the other thing, I just want to be somebody there that can provide some value to you. And hopefully whatever you know can rub off on me. I just want to be a sponge and learn. And you got to be afraid. You got to be open to asking, dude. And if you do that over and over and over again, you're eventually going to find somebody that's going to see something in you that will take the time to sit down and talk to you and pour into you. And here's the best advice that I can give you when you find that person. Do exactly what they tell you to do and don't change anything, okay? I sit down and have had 1,000 lunches and coffees, guys, with people that ask me, how do I get started? How do I do this? How do I blah, 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 blah. And I give basically the same answer every single time because the answer is not different, okay? And what I was great at, and one of the things that I did was when I was in your position in that conversation, when they told me what to do, I did exactly to the T everything that they said. And I never came back to that person with other questions until I did exactly what they told me to do. And here's how the mentor that you have will know that you followed their instructions, is because when you come back, the questions that you have are going to be different. Okay. That's how I know. Okay. And those people, I have no problem helping. Okay. I have people that just reach out to me. They don't pay me for my time. They're not part of our coaching. They don't do any of that stuff. They just reach out to me, and I'm happy to help because I was that person at the beginning. And so for me, when they told me what to do, I did exactly what they said. And so many people want to change the recipe for success, guys, and you can't, because the end result is not going to be the same. The cake is going to be screwed up at the end because you, instead of doing everything that I tell you to do, you want to take out the cold calling, or you want to take out doing the work like Zuber says, because you don't want to do that inherently because it's hard. And when you replace that recipe or you replace that ingredient with something else, the end result is not going to be the same. So you have to do exactly what that person says and then go back to them, and your questions will be different. Inherently, they'll be different. And then it's that process, rinse and repeat all over and over again, right? And the mentor will shortcut your journey because they can compress time for you. All these things that you're trying to figure out on your own, the mentor will be like, no, dude, just do this and do this and do this. And that will shortcut everything. And as long as you listen, that whatever they tell you to do will work. And then you'll be, okay, wow, that did work. Now I'm here. Now I have a whole new set of problems that I need to solve. And it's just that over and over again. Right.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Yep.
All right, Catherine, I think you're next.
Hi, Jason. Hi, Michael. Hi, everybody. Jason,
Hey, Catherine.
this is the most awesome information. Thank you so much for doing that.
You're welcome so much. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have one major question. I just wanted to give you a little background about me and my husband. This is Rod.
Sure. Hey, Rod.
Hi.
Just to let you know that, and Van Reef just summarized this so well. We're kind of the opposite of Van Reef and his wife. My husband is the uber conservative one in the partnership here. And, you know, my background is in sales and customer service and even crisis intervention. So I'm extremely comfortable talking to people. I love it, actually. I love talking to people and calling people. So my background is in that. And he hates it. He hates talking to people. He loves spreadsheets and computers and numbers. And so we make a good team that way.
Rod sounds like my Jen. Yeah, it is a
Right?
very, very similar dynamic. Yeah, that's right.
Right. So we're good that way, but he's very conservative. Another variable here is that we are later in life. And so my aim is to get him retired sooner rather than later. So the variables are a little different in that way because we have to be a little more fiscally conservative because you can't afford to make as many mistakes when you get a little further on.
Understandable, for sure.
Having said that, I love the idea of fix and flip, particularly because I'm in the industry where I have a lot of contacts. I have contractors at my disposal. I know a lot of people in the real estate industry. So this is something, and he loves construction. He's very knowledgeable about, you know, building and fixing things and how things work. So I could see us doing that now.
Okay.
Fix and flip and then BRRRR, what have you. We want to own rentals is our aim, but we live in one of the worst areas for owning rentals in the country. We live in the greater Portland area. We live in Oregon City, Oregon, which is out in the country more. But
so as far as like the tenant landlord laws are skewed more towards the tenant, is that what you're talking about?
They're horrible. Yeah. They're absolutely horrible.
Yep.
So we don't want to invest in rentals here. So if we wanted to do, say, driving for dollars, fix and flips, what have you, we have a couple of markets in mind. We're just kind of doing the buy box right now and getting our skill together. How would we do that? I mean, what fix and flip do we go like? Moving to another area is not really viable to us right now because my family is here and I have to stay here for my family for various reasons. Am I making sense? What do you hear in what I'm saying?
You are here. Let me give you some feedback on, I think, how you can start. Okay. So I think that creating a fix and flip business in your market, okay, is a good idea because you can create a cash generating machine by doing that, right? So you can take the money from the fix and flips in Portland and take that income and then identify a market where you are happy to buy rentals, where maybe the tenant landlord laws are a little bit more favorable, right?
Right.
And what that does is the fixing and flipping will give you that financial security that you need. So you're not cannibalizing like your savings and all the money that you're making, right? Because the fix and flip should generate big chunks of income. That's what our business model is, Catherine. Like our business model is we have a transactional side to our business, and then we have the investment side. And the transactional side is fixing and flipping. It's wholesaling, it's brokerage activities that you do a deal, then that deal makes a chunk of money, and then that chunk of money gets transferred to the investment side of the company where we buy income producing assets that pay us consistently and predictably every single month. Now, your transactional business can be in your backyard and the investment business can be somewhere else. You know what I mean? I think there's going to be lots of overlap because you're going to learn so much about real estate from doing the fix and flip that it'll give you the confidence that you need to potentially buy in another city or state, if that's what you want to do.
So instead of it being a BRRRR, it's just a fix and flip, and then take that money from the transaction and go to our rental market and use our letter credibility packet and go to our investors if we're not going to use our own money, and which I would prefer to not do, at least in the beginning or what have you.
Sure.
Because of this, you know, our situation, maybe get investors and go to that market and use our credibility packet and say, we've done X transactions in the Portland area, et cetera, et cetera. That's what you're saying? Oh, I like
Yes, and you can still do BRRRR in your rental market. Okay. And the reason why the fix and flip will be very good for you, because you'll understand how to find properties that you can buy at a discount. You're going to understand how to manage construction. You're going to understand how to keep your rehab costs in line, and all of that stuff directly overlaps to whatever your BRRRR market is going to be, if that's the model that you guys want to use. Because you can go find distressed or undervalued properties in another market and basically overlay the fix and flip business. The two things are identical. The only thing that's different is the exit. That's how it works in us, right? So everything we do is predicated off of buying a good deal first. So finding a good deal is step number one. Then once we find a good deal, then we decide what we want to do with it. So if we want to fix and flip it, we're going to take it down. We're going to go raise money. We're going to hire a contractor. We're going to fix it up, and we're going to sell it on the open market. With our rentals, the only thing that changes is what happens at the end, which is instead of selling it on the open market to go like sell it and bring income in, we're just going to stick a tenant in there. And then we're going to go to a bank, and then we're going to go to one of our lenders, and we're going to refinance it. And if we run our numbers right, we should be able to refinance it at a number where we can pay off everything that we've invested. So all of our lender can get all their money back. That's the ideal scenario with the BRRRR. So then that way, the money that you raise to buy it and fix it just gets paid off at the refinance instead of at the sale. So the only thing that changes is the exit. So learning how to fix and flip, I actually think is a really, given your scenario, where you're at as far as age and your risk profile, learning how to fix and flip. And if you guys can go generate 150, 200 grand in revenue from fixing and flipping, that's such a solid foundation to then go start buying rentals, because now you're not worried about, God, we got to dip into our savings. We got to borrow against our 401. All the things that I did at the beginning, right? I took a second out on my house. We borrowed against our 401k. We did all of this stuff that I frankly don't necessarily recommend, but that's what I needed to do at that time of my life to make this happen. If you guys can generate that money from fixing and flipping, then it allows you to go buy the rental properties, and you know how to do the whole thing. It's just changing the exit strategy at the end.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Very
so
cool.
much.
Last question, we're going to get Arnold. Arnold raised his hand. Arnold, last question. We'll wrap this up.
Hey, Jason, my question is if you're able to talk more and maybe provide your process with the virtual assistant, how you've recruited them, maybe using online job PH, onboarding, or even the way that you're paying them as an independent contractor, you know, them working in the Philippines and we're in the United States.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, no, it's good. So in the chat, somebody asked about the resources and the websites that we use to hire virtual assistants. I put the top 3 places that we go to source our virtual team members. Onlinejobs.ph is my favorite one. We typically have always hired from the Philippines. I've just done very well with virtual team members from there. Onlinejobs.ph is a great resource and marketplace to identify those people and those potential team members. So for us, Arnold, the process starts just like we would hire somebody else, right? So you can go to ChatGPT right now and say, hey, I need a job description for a virtual team member to help in my real estate investing business to do X, Y, and Z, and then insert whatever tasks. ChatGPT is going to get you a really detailed job description. You go take that job description, you go to onlinejobs.ph, you put that job description there. And I would recommend a starting pay, depending on what exactly you're going to be hiring for, of $4 to $6 an hour. Anything lower than that, you're going to see a lot of constant turnover. You're not going to have a high quality team member. They're constantly going to be looking for other work. $4 to $6 an hour is kind of the sweet spot. $4 should be for more like experience-wise, entry level, and maybe administrative or operational work. If you're going to be hiring people to get on the phone and call, and you need that skill set, I think you need to pay closer to $6 if you want somebody that's quality with experience that can help you start generating leads. And you would just put that on there. People are going to respond. You're going to go do an interview with them like you would anything else, right? What I can do is I can share some interview guides with you guys too, if you want, for like how, like the questions that you should be asking and those types of things in that interview, if that would be helpful. So then that way you don't have to come up with those questions. So I can tell my team to include those things with you guys too. And then here's the big area where people screw up. Once you've identified somebody, you figured out their pay, and then you've hired them. Okay. A couple other systems that we use before we get into like what you need to be doing to properly manage people. We use Payoneer, or a company called Wise, W-I-Z-E, to process their payments. Those are the things that we do to just pay them, right? We use a system called Time Doctor, okay, to manage their hours and to manage their productivity. Time Doctor is a very, very powerful tool. The team member needs to log into Time Doctor every day. That's what tracks their hours that they're working. It also tracks their productivity, and it takes a screenshot like every 30 seconds of what is on their computer. So you know and see that you're not paying them to like watch YouTube videos all day long, right? And they're actually working, right? It also tracks all the websites that they're on, and it'll send you alerts on like, oh, they're on a non-productive website like YouTube, or they're on a whatever, you know what I mean? So Time Doctor and Payoneer, or TransferWise. Time Doctor to track their hours and manage productivity. Those other two sites to actually pay them. Now, here's where most people drop the ball with virtual team members. They treat them just like a set it and forget it type of thing. And they think that, you know, they hire them and they magically produce like a couple leads every single day. They don't train them. They don't talk to them. They don't build a culture. They don't get them invested in your company vision. That's the biggest screw up that you can make. So you need to understand, when you're hiring a virtual team member, you're hiring an employee. And imagine if you got hired by a company and your boss never called you, and your boss didn't train you, and your boss just said, here's what I need you to do. And, you know, just do it and let me know if you like, and that's it. That's never going to work if you do it that way, guys. So with us, my team and I, we have a daily huddle every single day, and there's 11 of us. Everybody's required to be on. Everybody's camera is required to be on so we can see each other. And that huddle is basically structured to do a couple things. One, every team member that needs to report KPIs, key performance indicators, has to report them. So the way we structure it is one team member comes, talks about current escrows. One team member comes on, talks about hot leads and deals that we're close to close on. One team member comes on and talks about active projects, right? So that takes about 5 minutes to go through those things. Then everybody goes around the horn and shares a win, either a personal or professional win from the day before, right? And this is the culture and the team building that you need, right? Because we want people to talk about what happened yesterday. What was something great that happened in your day yesterday, right? And if you're having an issue, what do you need help with, right? Where can we step in so we can kind of collaborate? So that happens every single day. For my team, it takes 15 minutes. If for you, if it's just you and one other person, it's not going to take more than 5 minutes, guys. And I can't tell you how important that check-in every single day has to happen. We use Slack for our team's communication, right? So we use Slack to message back and forth, and we have all the channels built out in Slack. So if we have deals, or if we have sales and acquisitions, or we have all these different things, everybody communicates in the appropriate channel. And then we use Zoom to communicate like this. And, you know, that's pretty much how we have it set up and running. I mean, there's lots of things that we can go in with virtual assistants, but that's a 30,000 foot view of how to manage and hire and manage and run a team of VAs.
Very cool, folks. Let's remind you what site you can go to, because I know a lot of you are going to want to reach out to Jason to get all the stuff that he's offered up over the last 2 hours. It is jasonpritchard.com. And if you scroll to the bottom, you will see the form. Just fill it out, put an email, put something in the message about being a part of the ORAT Bootcamp, and he will get you all those goodies. Likely come Monday, because this is something, again, his team will be doing. Jason, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for being the kickoff topic or group. You and Jen are going to come out to Vegas 17th and 18th and just get the party started. So say hi to Jen for me. I appreciate you guys coming out. Jason, closing thoughts, bring us home.
And guys, just the thing that I will always tell you guys is that if you do the work, like Zuber says, the outcome that you want will happen inevitably. Now, it may happen in 30 days. It may take 6 months. It may take 12 months. But as long as you don't give up and you just keep doing it, you will eventually get to where you want to go, right? I have met lots of people that want to get in real estate and have never done a deal. I've met lots of people that have gotten in real estate and done multiple deals. I have never met one person that's done one deal and stop. So it's that one deal, guys. That's all that you want. Once you get that one, right, that domino falls and everything else that you want happens after that. So I don't want you to be part of that first group that we were talking about. All the people that love to get into real estate, but they never actually do something. You need to be a part of that second group. And being part of that second group is just doing the work and not giving up. And feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to be a resource and answer any questions if I can. Again,
Jason's website, Jason Pritchard on Instagram. And if you want to do yourself a service, follow Jen Pritchard, Jen Pritchard. She's a wonderful follow as well.
If you guys want to get connected with me, Instagram and Facebook are the easiest ways to do it. It's just my name. We share tons of valuable information on there, and we're very, we just share our journey every day, what's going on with that type of stuff. So feel free to reach out to me on there if you got any questions.
Awesome, man. Thanks, guys. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, guys.